The Boston Celtics are facing the kind of scrutiny only champions know too well. A slow start, a few losses, and suddenly the entire NBA world starts whispering the same dramatic question. Could the defending champions actually miss the playoffs? Before we dive into that chaos, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the hype bell so you don't miss the real stories behind the green and white. Now, let's get real. Boston's 1-win and 3-loss start sent shockwaves through the league, but let's remember who we're talking about. This is a franchise that hasn't missed the postseason since Jayson Tatum was still a teenager. 11 straight playoff appearances, 6 trips to the conference finals, 2 NBA Finals appearances, and, of course, that unforgettable 2024 title that put the Celtics right back on top of the basketball world. So why the panic? Because when you're the Boston Celtics, every stumble looks like a crisis. Their early schedule didn't help either. Houston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland. All physical, playoff-caliber teams, and Boston had to face them without Tatum leading the charge. His injury forced Jaylen Brown and Derrick White to do the heavy lifting, both offensively and defensively, and the chemistry just wasn't there. The ball movement slowed, the spacing disappeared, and the defending champions suddenly looked mortal. Cue the headlines. Cue the doubt. But here's where the narrative flips. Over the last few games, something has changed. Boston's ball movement is sharper, their defense is back to form, and the numbers show it. 3 wins in their last 4, holding opponents below 110 points each time. The bench is coming alive, with Payton Pritchard finally finding his rhythm, Sam Hauser stretching defenses, and Nena''s Quetta proving he belongs in rotation. The Celtics are starting to look like themselves again, and that should terrify the rest of the league. Let's not forget what kind of team this is. The Celtics aren't rebuilding, they're reloading. Even without Tatum, they're organized, composed, and confident. Jaylen Brown is embracing leadership. Derrick White is controlling the pace. And once Tatum steps back on the floor, Boston regains an MVP-level presence who can change a game at will. History tells us that great teams often start slow. The 2018 Warriors, the 2014 Spurs, they all faced early struggles before flipping the switch. The difference between contenders and pretenders isn't how they start, it's how they respond. And right now, the Celtics are responding. The Eastern Conference is strong, but outside of Milwaukee and Philadelphia, who really scares Boston? Charlotte? Atlanta? Orlando? None of them have the experience, the pedigree, or the firepower to knock out this roster when it's healthy. So if you're betting against the Celtics making the playoffs, you might want to reconsider before it's too late. This isn't the story of a downfall. It's a wake-up call. A reminder that in the NBA, greatness must be earned every night. The slow start didn't expose weakness, it exposed hunger. The Celtics are rediscovering who they are, and when Tatum returns, this team could turn that early doubt into fuel for another deep playoff run. So the real question isn't whether the Boston Celtics will make the playoffs. The real question is, once they do, who's going to stop them? Celtics have opened the new season with more tension than triumph. A painful loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, surrendering 42 points in the final quarter, was enough to send shockwaves through Boston. The defending champions looked unrecognizable, and the whispers grew louder. Could this be the beginning of a major shakeup inside one of the NBA's most historic franchises? This is not the same Boston team that lifted the trophy in 2024. Jayson Tatum, the franchise cornerstone, is out with a torn Achilles tendon. Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday were traded away in the offseason. Veterans Al Horford and Luke Kornet left through free agency. Suddenly, the Celtics roster that once dominated the league is fighting just to stay afloat. The chemistry is off, the rotation's uncertain, and patience inside the locker room is running thin. But according to Bleacher Report analyst Andy Bailey, the biggest changes may still be ahead. He predicts that Boston could move multiple players before February's trade deadline to reduce salary and reshape its future. The Celtics are currently within $12 million and $100,000 of ducking under the luxury tax line. That financial number may be the key to understanding the decisions that are coming. If this team falls below a 50% win record, front office executives may see no reason to keep expensive role players. 2 names have already surfaced. Anthony Simons, acquired in the summer trade with Portland, and Sam Hauser, the sharpshooter who once symbolized Boston's perfect roster balance. Simons is talented, but has never quite fit the Celtics' defensive system. Hauser, on the other hand, has history with the franchise. His clutch shooting was essential during the 2024 championship run, earning him a 4-year, $45 million contract that now runs through 2029. It was supposed to be a reward. Today, it feels like a burden. What makes this situation even more dramatic is that these possible moves are not driven only by performance, but by finances. Even if Tatum were healthy, the numbers suggest Boston would have needed to shed salary eventually. The injury just accelerated the process. It forced the Celtics to rethink not just their lineup, but their entire identity. And that is where the sense of urgency comes in. Because this isn't just about money. It's about direction. Are the Celtics preparing for a soft rebuild while still pretending to compete? Or is this front office ready to gamble on keeping the core intact until Tatum returns? Every decision from here could define whether Boston stays among the contenders or slides into a painful reset. The season has just begun, but the clock is already ticking. The trade deadline is approaching, the roster is unbalanced, and the team's confidence is fragile. The next few weeks will reveal if the Celtics can stabilize or if another shocking trade will reshape the future once again. The real question now is simple yet explosive. How many losses will it take before Boston decides to pull the trigger? Boston Celtics were supposed to respond after a tough stretch, but instead, they suffered a humiliating 128-101 loss to the Houston Rockets. A defeat that not only exposed their flaws, but also led to one of the most surprising post-game comments from Payton Pritchard since he arrived in Boston. Pritchard, drafted with the 26th pick back in 2020, has lived through the highs and lows of this franchise. 2 NBA Finals appearances, a championship in 2024, years surrounded by stars like Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis. But now, in the 2025-2026 season, the situation feels entirely different. Boston is battling through roster changes, financial pressure, and the painful absence of Tatum, still sidelined with an Achilles tendon injury. Despite those challenges, the Celtics had been competitive, showing flashes of the disciplined and resilient team that defined their title run. That illusion ended on Saturday night in Houston. The Rockets, now coached by former Celtic Ime Udoka and strengthened by the addition of Kevin Durant, completely dismantled Boston on both ends of the floor. The game wasn't close. It wasn't even a contest. And after the buzzer, Pritchard stepped in front of reporters and delivered a line that stunned everyone. "They punked us." Simple words, but powerful. They cut through excuses and revealed something deeper. It wasn't just about losing. It was about being outworked, outsmarted, and outplayed. It was about pride. And coming from Pritchard, a player known for his intensity and fight, that statement hit the entire organization hard. Because when a competitor like him says the team got punked, it forces reflection from top to bottom. This wasn't the frustrated reaction of a role player. It was the voice of a veteran who has seen what winning basketball looks like and recognizes that this version of the Celtics isn't there right now. Boston looked disconnected, without rhythm, and too passive against a Houston team that played with purpose. The contrast was undeniable. The Rockets looked like contenders. The Celtics looked like they were searching for an identity. Now the real question becomes whether Pritchard's honesty will spark change or signal deeper issues behind the scenes. Will this loss serve as a wake-up call that brings the group closer, or is it a sign that frustration is growing inside the locker room? Boston faces the Utah Jazz next, a team with a losing record, but that game may reveal far more than the standings. It will show if the Celtics still have the competitive fire that once made them champions. Because after being called out from within, one thing is clear. The next time Boston steps on the court, there will be no room for excuses. So the question now is direct and unavoidable. After Payton Pritchard's shocking statement, how will the Celtics respond? The Boston Celtics are once again at the center of a growing storm. After a string of painful defeats and mounting financial pressure, a bold trade proposal is gaining traction across the league. According to Bleacher Report's salary cap expert Eric Pincus, the Celtics could soon consider a dramatic move. A deal that would send Derrick White to the Houston Rockets in exchange for young talent and financial relief. But is Boston really prepared to move one of its most trusted veterans to escape the repeater tax trap? Stay tuned until the end because the numbers, the logic, and the implications might surprise you. And before we dive into this, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the hype button so you don't miss any breaking updates from inside the Celtics organization. Pincus' report outlines a complex 3-team trade involving Boston, Houston, and Brooklyn. In this scenario, White would join the Rockets, while the Celtics would receive former number 3 overall pick Reed-Sheppard, Brooklyn forward Jalen Wilson, and a future first-round selection. The Rockets would also acquire Haywood Highsmith, while Brooklyn would land Fred VanVleet and a first-rounder from Houston. On paper, the trade looks strategic. In practice, it represents a potential turning point for Boston's entire direction. The reasoning behind it lies in the numbers. Even after shedding big contracts like Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis over the summer, Boston remains roughly $12 million above the luxury tax threshold. Under the NBA's repeater tax, that number could double the penalty rate, costing the Celtics nearly $39.5 million. Dropping below the tax line could not only save that money, but also return an estimated $12 million in rebates from the league. That's more than $50 million in total financial impact. For a team facing uncertainty without Jayson Tatum and minimal postseason hopes this year, that's not a detail to ignore. The trade's basketball side is equally significant. Derrick White is 31 years old, still one of the best two-way guards in the league, but currently struggling with a heavier offensive role. His shooting percentage has dipped to just over 30%, and his decision-making under pressure has raised concerns. Meanwhile, Reed-Sheppard, only 21, has shown early flashes of brilliance, averaging over 10 points and 3 assists per game. A player who could represent Boston's future timeline, cheaper and more adaptable to a younger core. Yet the emotional weight of this discussion is heavy. White is more than a player for the Celtics. He's been part of their defensive identity, a steady hand through championship runs, and a locker room voice that commands respect. Trading him wouldn't just be a financial maneuver. It would signal that Boston's front office is ready to prioritize long-term planning over short-term stability. And that's where the speculation gets dangerous. Sources like Jake Fisher have reported that Boston is reluctant to move White unless the return is massive, similar to the 5-pick haul New York gave up for Mikal Bridges. That stance shows just how much the organization still values him. But if the losses continue and the tax pressure grows, even the most loyal front office may begin to reconsider its options. So the question hanging over Boston tonight is simple but explosive. If cutting costs means losing Derrick White, one of the team's core leaders, will the Celtics really pull the trigger? Or will loyalty win out over logic once again? If you believe this decision could change Boston's future, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the hype button, because the next move might redefine what it means to wear green in Boston.